in our lives, if we are in suffering, it's because literally we are living in a lie about something that we've told ourselves from some past trauma that doesn't have to be true anymore. But we're bringing that past into our current reality. When we live in the truth of who we are, everything feels easy. And that's what you were able to experience. You went from that suffering place into that truth, and then everything became more easy, more you, more exactly what you want to create.
This next episode is with my dear friend, Annie Yatch. Annie works with thousands of female entrepreneurs. Remember, every single woman is an entrepreneur with all the things that we juggle. She is so incredible at helping people understand how to live in more flow in their lives through making so many little simple changes that you can stack over time in whatever way works best for you. I love the take-home advice that she gives. She makes it so simple to implement these things into your life that are going to make incredible changes in your personal life, your life with your family, your marriage, and every single relationship that you have. Enjoy. All right. I got my girl Annie Yatch back, my first guest that has been back a second time, and I am so excited for this conversation.
I'm so excited too. I just love being with you and hanging out. So what are we going to get up to today?
Yeah, so we're going to go in depth. Annie is one of my favorite people for making lasting transformative changes in a really easy, simple way. And you were my first guest on this podcast, and I'm going to get a little bit vulnerable before we get started in a minute here and talk about why that was because of a personal experience that we had together. And I just, timing is just always so aligned. And I just think I'm ready to take this podcast to a next level and just do some new things with it. And I'm really excited to dive in and give these women and men, whoever listening, some really easy, simple tools that can absolutely take things to the next level.
I love that. I'm all in.
Good. And Annie focuses on, working with thousands of female, specifically, mostly, but men too, entrepreneurs. And I think what's really important to define is every mama is the entrepreneur of her home. And you're one of the people that's really helped me completely understand that. All the things that we juggle, we're really running a business inside our homes. So this message is for every single woman out there.
I love it. I just think that the work that you've done too for yourself, it's opened up so much freedom in self-expression, in who you are. I'm so thrilled, and I'm really excited to go deeper into it today.
Cool. Let's do it. So I met with Annie, that was like 2 years ago, and we ran through a process. And I want to share this. It's a little bit vulnerable, and a lot of I share a lot about my personal growth on Instagram, through stories, books I'm reading, all the things. And then I always kind of save some of it for myself. I think in a time where everything is so out there, I just need some stuff in my life to be private. And at the same time, I've realized, and this is why I think this timing is cool, my goal is to inspire women to think out of the box and to do things that are silly and uncomfortable, whether that's, tapping, like you say that you tap dance in between your emails and you don't even know how to tap dance, but it just makes you so happy. Like silly, cringy things like that we can do that just make us feel so good. And then other things that, can feel kind of scary and unknown. And that was the experience that I delved into with you. And so I want to share a little bit of that just to help inspire people to take their own journey, whatever that looks like.
Yep. Go as vulnerable as you want. I mean, this is a safe zone and we can talk about anything. So I'm excited for it, girl.
So Annie and I met up in Park City at a log cabin, and I had 3 beautiful days there on my own, just me and Annie, sometimes completely on my own, which was a big step because in the past I've been scared to be in a house alone. And you took me through a process of, reconnecting with myself. And it was a really open process. And whatever came up for me was what was going to be, my journey and my experience. And we took some supplements just to help get me in the right brain phase and open up my heart. And what happened for me is in that process is where I found my voice that I had lost, for a majority of my life. My nickname growing up was Missy Mouse. I was so quiet and shy. And I think what had happened was because I'm an empath and a helper and I always want to be the light in the room, I was putting on these masks to show up for other people, whether it was having caffeine so I could step in and be the biggest light and bubbly and, bring everybody's energy up, or at social events, having alcohol and getting comfortable. And what was happening is I was completely turning off my inner voice. I wasn't listening to what I actually wanted in any moment. And now that's something that I do before almost every single thing I do. Like, the experience that you and I went through was so huge and so immersive. But really, so much of the work that you do, Annie, is these subtle little things that make such lasting impact in your marriage, in your parenting, in your personal life. Like, I now literally don't do much without first checking in. Is this a should do, or is this a I want to do? And the dramatic shift that I have felt in my life is just so, so empowering.
Well, I love that you shared that because I really honestly believe that for many of us as women, as mothers, as entrepreneurs, as people in the space, right? We almost try to block ourselves from stepping into the greatness that we are because we shut down on so many parts of ourselves that we think, oh, this won't work in this situation, or this can't be done because this isn't appropriate, or it's not the appropriate time or space for whatever it is we're feeling. But the reality is, if we're not moving through the world based on the energy that works for us and what we really truly want and desire, we're being stagnant in regards to our own energy and what we're here to do in our calling. So I think that time for you was so huge because you were able to finally self-express and bring your voice out and know that that was truly who you are instead of any mask that you might have put on in the past. And so once you do that, all the masks fall away and then you can finally step into the world as you and respond to things in a way that's truly from your heart.
hmm It was so incredible. And I know, inner child work is getting more common and more of a buzzword. And what happened for me, and this was probably a unique experience to me, or maybe a lot of your clients experienced this, I literally went back. I went back as like my 6-year-old self. And oh my gosh, she was feisty. She had
She
so
was a
much to
big
say.
one.
Remember, I was like asking these questions like,
I remember.
why did this in my life play out this way? And she was there. Boom. She had the answers. And I was like, oh my God, that was incredible.
And to have those answers come so quickly and know that they're within you and that literally you just have to ask sometimes and they show up.
Yeah, it was so cool. And it's all just part of our story, like a lot of things came up that have happened like to me, for me. Again, all part of my story. This isn't like a victim mindset kind of experience. It was just noticing and going back into these moments where I didn't have a voice. I didn't stand up for myself and literally like reliving it as it happened and speaking out and sticking up for myself and just walking away from that. It's like my body felt better than it has my entire life. I let go of so much.
And I think that's the thing that I would encourage for other women, right? Because I've done a lot of these sessions for women. And what I love about them is every single one is so custom to what your heart needs you to hear. I just did one last week, and it was so profound because this woman had been so shut down because her emotional state sort of stopped at the point where her brother died. And so she couldn't remember a lot from her childhood because memory is from emotionality. And so if you shut down on your emotions, you don't remember. And so the second she and I got into the session, she was having memory after memory come back of all this emotional stuff that she'd experienced. And for the first time, she got to reconnect to the love that she had for her brother who had died. And that started to fill her in a whole different way. And it brought her back to life. So that's one example of, because everyone's so customized. You never know what the person needs to hear from their heart. But as long as they show up ready to do the work, it will be completely transformative.
Yeah. There was like a second part with our journey, just, kind of relating to that as well. I had lost a dear friend when we were about 15, someone that I loved very much. He was killed in front of my brother. And I realized a lot of my struggle with being fully present with my children. Like I in the past would be on the couch having the most lovely moment with them. And I would start to think about work that I needed to be doing or emails that I needed to be addressing. And what we realized is I was so afraid to fully love. I was so afraid to fully love because I was so afraid to hurt that deeply again. And just, processing that death and that transition, it's like I can now, I know this sounds so silly and maybe people would accuse me of being a bad mom, but I don't care because I know that's not really the truth. And I don't think people would really think that. I had a really hard time being present with my kids and I couldn't figure out why. It was like no matter what meditations I did, no matter what I was trying to clear out, nothing worked. And in that session, just realizing I was living that full story completely changed everything. Like I can love them so deeply, regardless of, what happens one day in my life, their life.
Well, I think that you're dead on in that because when you experience the death of somebody close to you at a very young age, it almost causes you to believe that if you love anyone deeply, that you will lose them. Right? And so this is a very expansive theme. A lot of this has happened to many people that you and I both know. And the thing that's so interesting about it is if we allow ourselves to live in the world where we cannot go into that emotional space of feeling love and being loved, then we lose at least 50% of our ability to connect with other people. And what most of us don't get is that is something that people feel. They can feel when we're disconnected. Even though we think we're totally connected, we're totally present, everything's going great, they feel the energy of us not really being there. So the sooner that we're able to realize that we're not as engaged as we want to be and then figure out what's driving that, like you did, now you have so much love that you have access to that you couldn't have had access to before,
Yeah,
both
definitely.
internally and externally.
Yeah, and my friendships have changed everything because I connect so deeply with the people in my circle. It's like people just came in that are also that depth of relationships.
And that's who you are at your core,
Yeah.
right? I think back to who you were before, and I'm like, we survive, we make it through, but that feeling of before versus who you are now, what you're able to feel now, I mean, isn't it night and day difference?
It's so easy. Everything
It's
is so
easy.
easy. Yeah.
And that goes back to the concept of in our lives, if we are in suffering, it's because literally we are living in a lie about something that we've told ourselves from some past trauma that doesn't have to be true anymore. But we're bringing that past into our current reality. When we live in the truth of who we are, everything feels easy. And that's what you
Mhm.
were able to experience. You went from that suffering place into that truth, and then everything became more easy, more you, more exactly what you want to create.
So amazing. Well, I know we're gonna do another one in a few months here, so maybe we'll hop on shortly after once
That'd be so
I've
great.
integrated everything and we can share more for those who want to hear.
I would love that.
Okay, so let's delve in. Let's give some easy, I know we're going to chunk down a few really great concepts for people to implement right away.
So I'm going to dive in just with this concept of the ideal life because I gave a speech on this a couple of weeks ago in Houston to I think it was 300 or 400 people. And what was really cool about it was every single person came up afterwards. They're like, I have never backwards engineered my life that way. And so what I want to talk about is this concept that, most of us, we're very reactive in life, right? Like something happens, we respond. Something else happens, we respond. We become parents and we don't know what we're doing. And then we are responding and reacting to all the fires as we try to put them all out, right? The issue with that I've found is that it's not based on emotion. And in order to move in any way, we have to link emotion to imagination and use those two things to work for us. So, what I'm a big fan of is if we're going to look at our lives, number one, we have to set the right mood, right? And for many of us, there's this scarcity that comes up around how we can live our lives. So, what I started doing, and I know this probably sounds silly, but I started imagining that I had $1 million in my bank account, $1 million in cash in my bank account. And I started feeling what that would feel like in my body. And then deciding, how do I want to move through the world knowing that I have safety, I have security, I have what I need emotionally there? And what I noticed was I started making very different decisions in how I interacted with people, how I treated people, how I treated my children. It was almost as though having that safety and security emotionally was able to allow me to create much more in the world. So, whenever you're thinking about your ideal life, I strongly recommend you start with this concept of if I have $1 million in the bank, what decisions would I make differently? How might I interact differently? How would my day look? So, the first thing you have to do is you have to set the mood. Okay. Second thing you have to do is you have to look at how you define success because everybody defines success differently. And the way you define success is going to be the way you feel success because success is not an objective. It's not a goal. Everyone thinks that's how success works, but it's actually an emotional state. So what I ask people to do is I ask people to think of, okay, what is this emotionally successful future that you want to feel? So for me, I want to feel peace and I want to feel joy. And so when I look through that lens of that emotional state, I'm like, how do I create an optimized daily experience for myself that I can sustain over time? Because that's my definition of success, an optimized daily experience that you sustain over time. How do you do that through the lens of joy and peace? So if I'm looking at my day, I have to figure out if I want to feel more joy and I want to feel peace throughout the day, how would I craft that perfect day? And that looks very different than I'm waking up, I'm immediately responding to emails, I'm immediately responding to what the family needs, responding to what my spouse needs. It's very different. So I would sit down and I would encourage everyone in your audience to sit down and look at if I have two emotions that I most want to feel, how would I make sure that those two emotions move throughout the day with me so that I'm putting emotional deposits into my mental account, my emotional bank account, so that those feelings follow me through the day so I can be satisfied at the end of each day.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
That's where that tap dancing story came in. I needed more joy. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to buy some tap dancing shoes. Even though I don't know how to tap dance, I'm going to tap dance around my kitchen because I like the sound.
Totally, totally. I heard a song at the gym like a couple days ago and I was like, this would be amazing for belly dancing. I thought of you
Ooh,
with your tap dance. I'm like,
yes.
I don't know how to belly dancing. I don't know how to belly dance, but I'm getting one of those little Amazon like
Yes. The
scrinkly
little,
skirts with the
yep,
bells. And
you have to do it.
I'm gonna belly dance when my house is empty.
Well, that's a really good point too, right? Because every time you try something new and you do something new that you've always wanted to do, you're increasing the neuroplasticity of your brain.
Oh my God.
So every week, I'm like, I'm going to try something new each week. And it's usually something that I'm like, oh gosh, I don't know. Pole dancing. Could I do that? I don't know.
Are you
Like
doing
blues
that?
dancing. I'm doing it. So I tried blues dancing last week and it
Hmm.
was amazing. And then this week, I'm doing some pole dancing. I'm going to try that out. I learned that you have to have the right shoes, otherwise you will slip. So many cool things that I
Yeah,
would normally never do, but I'm doing it because I'm like, if I want more joy and if I want more of that peace, I have to intentionally create it. And I have to intentionally build it into my day so that every day is a good day, not
absolutely.
just once a week.
And what's so important, I think, to note is some of these things can be okay, I'm going to sign up for a class, I'm going to take lessons. Some of these things can take like 5 minutes. Some of the
I,
best changes I've implemented, I know you too, are like literally 5 to 10 minutes in between all the job duties, the house duties, whatever. And it's so incredibly effective. I love that you touched on the words too. I think those words are really important to get clear around. So like yours are peace and joy, mine are fun and easy. And so literally when I first, even before I open my eyes in the morning, it's like subconscious kicks in. We're in that theta brainwave state. You can kind of easily go into like, oh, today's like a big day. I'm tired. That's the time to reframe. That's the time to latch onto those words. Like I'll
and the
often do,
emotion.
and the emotion. I'll do
Yes.
fun easier. Like this morning, I was tired. I just got back from travel last night. I was like, I'm gonna switch that with content. I'm content.
Mm,
I'm peaceful. Whatever you make as your lens for what you're gonna find it.
exactly. And anything that you want to attract, you first have to be. So if I
Mm,
want more peace and I want more joy, I've got to be that and I've got to feel that. And most of us, I think, we mess this up a little bit because we've heard so much about visualization and we think we have to see it.
mm,
I think it's not that you have to see it, you have to feel it as you're seeing it. And that's where imagination is more powerful, I think, than visualization. Because I want to imagine what it would feel like to feel that joy or that peace throughout my day. And then I can put myself in that place. So this
amazing.
brings up another point that we had talked about before that I know you wanted me to mention. There's this concept that I've been playing with for a while because you know how when you get triggered or when you get upset, as moms we can be reactive sometimes. It happens, right?
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out how do I get myself out of the triggered state without making it bad, without, having doubt issues come up. And so I started this concept called the parallel life exercise. So I used to I would imagine, okay, here's Annie over here in life A, where I'm freaking out or I'm having some trigger because somebody said something that really hurt my heart, right? And then I would go into, okay, here's the parallel life Annie. Here's Annie when she feels like, and I'll give a real life example. So I had, at one point, my ex said that he thought I was chaotic, right? When I
Mm,
heard that at first, I'm like, chaotic? I'm like, I'm one of the most stable, planned people out there. But I let that cause me some issue, right? So
mhm.
in my first life, I'm Annie reacting to that statement about me being chaotic, right? In my parallel life, I thought to myself, well, maybe what he's saying, maybe he's just saying Annie's Chinese. Am I Chinese? No, I'm not Chinese. Do I have any reaction when somebody tells me I'm Chinese if I'm not? No.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I got to a point where I was very neutral. And then I was able to take that way of feeling and that way of being and move it over. And now it's my current life. So I
Oh,
would put myself in two separate environments so I could see myself in the side where I'm being triggered and I could feel myself on the side where I'm not. And I could have a much quicker connection to the emotion that I needed to move me from one state to the next state. So I use that concept a lot.
And
with
do you do
clients.
that in the moment? So, like,
I
if
do.
it's happening and you happen to be making dinner and this happened, the kids are talking to you, you can literally do it in an instant the more you work on it?
I can do it now in an instant because it's so quick. When I
Mhm,
started, I'd be like, okay, give me 5 minutes. I got to go figure out what these parallel live things are. But
mhm,
now that I have it, I'm like, okay, this was me then. I can see it. Okay, this is me now. What do I have to think differently? How do I reframe? How do I feel the emotion of the reframe? And then it
mm,
very quickly, but I think it's important for your brain because you work right brain, left brain all the time. You
yeah,
want to make sure both of your brain sides are engaged so that when you bring it back together and that emotional state is clear, you can feel it first because that's what causes you to move. Gotta have the
mhm.
feeling.
Yeah, so let's talk about more on creating the feeling because you talked about that with joy and peace. So I just want to delve a little bit deeper for anyone who that's a new concept for.
Yes. So this is the hardest thing for people that have had, trauma in their life or people that are not used to identifying in their emotional state. They might identify in the mental state or the logical state, especially entrepreneurs. I see this a lot.
Mhm,
So when I ran this exercise, I was like, okay, two emotions only. And the only way to get to emotion is we've got to go to a memory. Because more often than not, in the present moment, it's hard to pull up an emotion, even though we're the only ones that control our emotions. It's hard to pull that emotion if we don't have something to reference, you know?
okay. Yeah. Yep.
So, what I suggest is if you want to feel a memory or you want to feel a feeling, you have to go back to the earliest memory that you have where you felt that feeling. So, I recently did this with another woman, and she wanted to feel desired in her relationship. She
Mhm,
wanted to feel wanted. And so I said, well, can you go back to the closest memory you have of a moment where you felt either extremely wanted by your significant other or your spouse? Can you remember what that feeling was? So she went back to a memory of when they had been on vacation with each other, and you could see her whole body started to light up, right? She started smiling. She could feel the energy of it. And I'm like, stay in that memory. What's the feeling that's coming up from that memory? And she's like, I feel so desired and so appreciated. I'm like, okay, now that we've got that memory and we've got the feeling from that memory, now you can work to feel that emotion anytime you want because you just referenced that memory. And
mhm,
that memory then she gets to create internally for herself. So, for example, if say you want your spouse to want you, and you want your spouse to make you feel desired, we can't put that on the spouse to create that feeling for us. We have to create that feeling first within us, and then it will attract the spouse to us or the significant other to us because we're already feeling it. So this is something that was a really big deal for me because I was like, gosh, I just, I want to feel more of this desire, more of this feeling. Well, guess what? It's not on me to put it on the other person. It's on me to create it within myself. So that's
yeah,
how I came up with, well, we got to start with the memory. And then from the
yeah.
memory, we can bring the emotion in. And the emotion then moves us into a new way of being or to a new behavior that gives us a different type of experience.
That feeling is such a powerful tool, and that's something I think some people have it naturally and some people have to work a little bit harder at it as a tool. It's funny in my relationship with Jason, he'll say, I think, I say, I feel. Like he's a thinker, he's analytical, I'm a feeler. And this is something that comes naturally to me. And I think it's why, like, people have looked at me my whole life as lucky. And I don't love the buzzword manifestation because I just think it's kind of buzzy, but like I do that, but it's because of the feeling. So when I sit in meditation, if I'm like, I want to have this dream life where my kids ride to the park every day on their bicycles, the weather's warm, blah, blah, blah. I will literally sit and close my eyes until I can create the feeling of what that would feel like. And that's meditation to me. That's what I do. I sit
Yes.
until I can feel it. I hold it. I make it familiar so that I can access it at any time. And this stuff is hands down one of the most powerful things you can do to create shifts in your life.
Because you have to feel as though it's already happening, right? If it's already happening, then it's already occurring and the universe is pulling it towards you, right? And so
Energy. Yeah.
I think you're dead on. We got to go to the emotion first. And that's where many times the emotion can feel intimidating or it can feel like, wait, we're going to some place that's weak or it's not as powerful. But emotion is actually the most powerful thing if you think about
Mhm,
it, because emotion is where love is, it's where energy lives, it's where all these things live. If we give
mhm.
ourselves access to that, then we've got a leg up or, a mental edge that others don't.
Amazing. Okay.
Fun. So then to make it practical, because I know with our audience, we got to make it really practical.
Mhm.
To use this concept of the ideal life, the way I look at it is we've got to first think about, and this is something that I would do every Sunday night with my ex when he and I were together. Every Sunday night we'd sit down and we would plan the week with a lot of intention. So we talk about, okay, how do we make sure that each one of us gets access to something that we really want to do this week? So we fill our souls with something. How do we make sure that the family has something planned that's intentional? So as a family, we're creating the emotion that we want to feel. How do we do this for our business so that the business moves forward in a way based on the emotion we want the business to experience? And then lastly, how do we create a moment for our relationship so the relationship can feel that emotion that we want it to feel? So we would pre plan almost every week with something for each one of us, something for the family, something for the business, and something for the relationship. But it was all based on these two emotions that we most wanted to feel or experience in each one of those areas of our lives. So I know this is probably a very intentional concept, but we found when we did that, that we both felt like we were sustained, we felt like we were fulfilled, we felt like the family was fulfilled. We can look back on every week and be like, wow, we wanted this to happen. It did happen. We felt it. We felt all these feelings. And now we're in a feeling of success that's sustainable.
Yeah, amazing. So each week, did the feelings change for each category typically?
Each week, the feelings could change, right? So, one week you might want to feel as a relationship, right? Adventurous and exciting,
Mm.
right? And so then you have a different type of activity, right? Than maybe,
Yeah.
just going to dinner. And then, for the family, for the kids, we'd ask the kids, what do you guys want to feel this week as a family with us? And we'd go off of what the kids came up with for their two emotions. And so then we'd play out whatever that was with them, right? So every week the emotions change, but every week the plan around experiencing those emotions might be similar or, it might change based on the activity that best serves that emotion.
That makes sense. Well, and it's pretty powerful just what the intention could do. You could go out to dinner and have the intention be connection. You could go out to dinner and have the intention be adventure. We're going to try 10 different foods.
Correct. Because then you both know what you're trying to get to. You know what that outcome is. You know what that North Star is. And if you know what it is, then you can actually get there. If you
Yeah.
don't know what it feels like, then you're never going to get there.
Yeah. I think that's such a huge take home message. Setting the intention can change the entire experience.
Change everything. And if both people are willing to set that intention for all four layers of their family and their experience of this world, there's nothing that you can't build to experience.
Mm. So cool. So easy.
Well, I think it's an easy concept, but it takes planning. And that's where a lot of
Mhm.
people fail because most of us assume that when things are easy, they're just spontaneous, it's quick, it's simple. But in order for things to be simple or fun or easy, there is some planning that's required and some
Yeah.
intentionality that's required.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I
Not
guess
that
I would
much.
say it's simple. It doesn't necessarily mean it's easy. You've got to make it happen.
Yeah. And you've got to put the time and effort towards it, an
Mhm.
hour every Sunday. And suddenly you have this amazing week plan that you're looking forward to every single time.
Yeah. And how important, either life's going to just pass us by us and slide by and we're on the hamster wheel and it's just busy. It's everybody's busy, but we
Everyone
carve
is.
out time for what we value and we carve out time for what's important. And what's more important than living your ideal life with yourself or with your family and your children?
Not much, right? That's why we're here. We're here to learn and we're here to get better at how we connect. And so I even have added in a separate topic or a separate area around friendships. Because for me, I wanted to make sure that the friends that I have and the people that I truly care about know how much they mean to me. And so I very intentionally on Sunday nights look at what am I going to do this week to build the connection of my friendships. So that's something
Mm,
I've also added in
love it. So, so good. Okay.
there.
What's
Thanks.
next, Danny? So many good nuggets.
Well, I was thinking about you, and I was thinking about the fact that, when we're in a vibrational state that might be lower than what we want. Because sometimes when we go into like you, right, you have to go into networking events, you have to go into big groups of people, and sometimes you might not feel like you're ready, or you might feel protective of yourself, and you might wonder, how do I enter into that scenario without losing my high vibration or without having to give off all my energy to other people, right? Because we always think we have to manage other people's emotional states,
Yeah.
which, number one, if you can, if you're listening, try your best not to manage anybody else's emotional state. It just gets you exhausted and it doesn't give you what you want anyway. The only
Mm,
emotional state we should worry about managing is our own. But in order to make sure your vibration is high and that nobody can drain your vibration, when you're going to big group events or big group experiences, what I like to do is I like to get a song and get a concept of what my vibrational energy is when I'm like totally myself. And I will play that music and I will get very focused on this is my energy frequency. I don't have to go into a room and match anybody else's vibration. I need to go in as fully me at 100% with as much glitter or excitement or adventure as I am in that moment. And so I try to sync up very quickly to whatever that energy is so that when I walk in, I don't drop my vibration to other people to make them more comfortable. And I think and I wish that more of us as women would take that little bit of time in that transition zone to
Mhm.
enhance and connect to our own vibrational frequency so that when we walk into a room, we can maintain that the entire time because that's us maintaining who we are.
I love that so much for so many reasons. So, one that's coming to my mind is, of course, not dropping your vibrational level. I think that we as women do that. We've talked about that. And I think we're going to touch on success later on and how we actually are afraid of it. We're afraid to shine our lights, right? So, I love it for that. And then also, a few of my guests on this platform have helped me better understand hormonal cycles. And there's times in our cycles where, like when we're ovulating, we want to be out there. It makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. We want to be out there. We want to find a mate. We're very social. There's times when we want to be in the red tent. And so we might not be up for a networking event or connection, but it's on the schedule. And so what I'm translating your message into is in those moments where, like for me, and I think a lot of women, especially entrepreneurs, we would mask that to be like, blah, 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 I'm having fun, whether it's drink or caffeine. There is so much power in our peace and quiet. You can be quiet and internal and still very lit up and open and connectable.
Yes, that is very true. So I would
Mhm.
say, like you just said, don't go to a crutch like caffeine or alcohol or something that will boost you. Go back to the truth of who you are and get centered in that, right? Because that allows you to show up. It doesn't matter if you have high energy or low energy. What matters is you showing up authentically.
Yeah. And just again, I want to drive that home because I think that's such a common thing. When we do those things, we are literally quieting our inner soul. We're quieting that inner voice that's like, maybe saying things like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. I'm feeling shy. I'm feeling internal. That's okay. Like we can honor that in its own way and still show up, but we don't have to fake it. We don't have to mask it.
And nobody wants you to fake it or mask it because they can tell and then they can't connect with you at all. So then why are you there in the first place? And
Yeah.
there are layers and layers to this because, if anyone's ever studied any human design, which I find fascinating, there are four different types of, not personalities, but like, I guess just four types of people.
Hmm.
And I'm a generator. And as a generator, what I have learned is that I have to wait to respond. So I can't go out there and, try to interact as much as possible. I need to literally enter a room, wait to respond, and allow people's energy to be drawn into me because that's the type of
Mm.
energy that I have. And then as a generator, I also want to look at, well, am I feeling the energy of this or am I not? And if I'm not, then I don't engage because that is also me being authentically me. So there's this
Mm.
whole question of what is authentically me and what is the mask? And trying to figure out what aspects of us are the mask. And it's funny because you could ask your friends, you can even say, like, hey, when you see me in my mask, like showing up like that, what do you notice? More often than
Mm.
not, people are going to say, oh, you appear a little bit robotic. You appear a little bit more frantic. You appear a little bit more maybe hyper excited,
Mhm.
but they see it and they feel it. So it makes sense to take that time before you enter into anything and check your energy. Does my energy pull me into this or not? Well, if it doesn't, maybe there's a better use of your time. Maybe there's something else that you could be doing, right?
Mhm.
So I think this whole concept of how you show up and how you ensure that when you show up, you're showing up authentically as you. We're giving you a lot of tips and techniques to do that. So play with it, make it your own. See what works for you.
I love it. I love music, so I want to hear some of your songs.
Oh my goodness! Right
What are
now,
your go-to songs?
um, I'm sort of into country at the moment, which is
I
sort
love
of funny.
country.
I have been a big fan of Luke Combs, his Five Leaf Clover song, because for some reason it just makes me feel so much gratitude for life when I hear that song. So that's a
Mhm.
big one. Let me see. I'll just pull it up on my playlist and I'll tell you
Do it.
because,
Yeah.
okay,
I've
let's
never
see.
heard that
So
one.
I actually love 9 to 5 by Dolly Parton
Oh, I love that one.
because it just gets you moving. It makes you feel good, right, about life.
Yeah. It also
What
reminds
else?
me though, like who I aspire to, but like who works a 9 to 5 anymore?
Nobody does.
Those were
Nobody
the
does.
days. Let's all do a 9 to 5 boundary.
Yep, good call on that one. I also love the song "Banks" by Need to Breathe. If I don't know if you've ever heard of that song, it's more of like a mellow song for at the end of the day, but it is just beautiful. Um, let's see what else is on here. There's a very calming song that I know you would love called "Spirit Bird." It's by Xavier Rudd, and I feel like that one would be a huge one for you to listen to get into that peace state.
Mm,
Um, there's just so many. I mean, Grace Kelly is always fun. Higher Love, the Whitney Houston song, like that one I listen to all the time because I want that higher vibration, right? So
yeah.
if you can find some cool things to listen to on your playlist and use that to get you into an emotional state, that can be a very quick way to change the state. I just
Mhm.
find sometimes once the song ends, then you can't sustain it. That's where I
Mm,
go back to the memory because the memory you can sustain for a little bit longer sometimes.
love it. Okay. I think these tools are really good too because it does encourage us to tap in and give us permission to start to say no to the things that don't vibrate high.
And that's the biggest thing that we need to do is we have to stop and pause and say no to more, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
know every woman talks about this. The way that you build this is you say no to things, and every time you say no, it just builds your confidence that you can say no again in the future. And I know
Mm,
based on my type, I have to pause and wait 24 hours. So I'll ask
mm,
myself these 5 questions if I'm ever wondering, okay, should I say yes, should I not? How is this going to impact me emotionally if I say yes? How is it going to impact me physically if I say yes? How's it going to impact me intellectually if I say yes? How's it going to impact me spiritually if I say yes? And then the last one, which is most important, is there anything else I would rather do with my time?
so
Right?
good.
Because we got to have a way to filter through and say, is this what really is important for me? Is this aligned with my desired end state, that emotional, successful future that we most want? And if
Hmm.
we don't know, then how can we make our default a knee jerk reaction to say yes? Just because we want to people please, just because we want people to like us, it
Yeah.
doesn't serve us in any way, shape, or form. So I would say the biggest lesson I learned this year is it is so much more powerful to say no because what is here for you and what is uniquely yours, there's no time window around when you say yes to it.
Mm,
You have to say yes when it's the right time for you and when your energy is pulling you into it and you can feel that. Because if you're taking action and you're not feeling the energy sync up, then you know over time you're just going to be resentful and annoyed that you said yes to something that wasn't truly in your calling or in your vibration.
yeah. There's a quote I read the other day. I think it was I'm reading two books right now, which are incredible. I highly, highly recommend these if people haven't read them. The Artist's Way,
Yes, so good.
so good. I'm like highlighting everything in there. And Conversations with God.
Mm.
Have you read that one?
I haven't read Conversations with God yet.
I don't think I was ever ready until now, and for me personally, I've never felt a connection with God. Like, I've had to say I remember even when Larry was at the experience with me, he was like, what can I say?" I'm like, "Say light, say universe,
Universe, say
anything but
source
God."
or something, right?
Yeah, now I can actually it's very interesting, but anyway, there was a quote in one of those books, and it said, "Over serving others doesn't make you a good person, it makes you a frustrated one." I had to,
Mhm.
like, slap that on my mirror
That's true.
because I think so many times, especially as women, it's like, my friend needs me or wants me, and I'm not a good person if I don't help them, with this pickup or this whatever. But like when we have this much time and this many things jammed into them, there are just times when we have to say no. And there are times when we have space to say yes.
And if we tell ourselves the story that if we don't say yes, we're not a good person, that sets us up for so much, regret for ourselves. And I think that that's one of those lies, right? That becomes very apparent. The more we look at why am I saying yes? And you're like, well, I feel like if I don't say yes, I'm not a good person. And you're like,
Mhm.
oh, that's a lie, and that's creating suffering. So what is the truth? The truth is I'm a good person because I choose to use my energy in the right way at the right time for me and for the people I love.
Love
Right? So
that.
that's just a little quick reframe, but it helps because then we're not falling into the old lie, which creates that suffering or resentment
Yeah.
or frustration.
Yeah. I do a reframe similar to that. It's like by saying yes to this, who am I saying no to? Well, I'm going to run around and I'm going to grab three extra kids and I'm going to come home and it's dinner time and I'm going to be overworked, resentful. I'm not gonna be able to connect with my kids. I'm way behind schedule. Like, that's
Mhm.
just not worth it. My family unit
No,
is so important.
that's true. And I think you're so correct with this concept of simplification, right? Like we might have a gut or knee-jerk reaction to say yes to something. But what I try to do is I try to pause and be like, okay, if I say yes to this, what else needs to become more simple for me to say yes?
Mm.
Right? Because we try to pack so much into our day because I think there's a fear in many of us that we don't know, how many days we have left. We might as well pack it all in. I remember even my parents' generation, they used to always say, don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today. And that built so much urgency and franticness in me as a young child. Now I'm like, but what do I want to weave into the day so that I maintain these two emotional states? If I say yes to this, will it allow me to feel the peace? Will it allow me to feel the joy? Not really. It's just gonna add complexity. So now
Mhm.
if something adds complexity, I really have to sit with it to decide, is this something that I want to do?
Those words are so powerful. So, so powerful.
I just love the fact that we're going back to simplicity here. We're going back to what feels good. We're going back to where our energy moves us instead of
Mhm.
it being, well, we have to, or we are obligated to, or we need to move this forward, right? That's so much masculine energy. And the feminine energy is like being in the flow of all the emotions and feeling those things, allowing the energy and the emotion to guide us, which some
Mm.
people might think is a weakness, but I think it's literally one of the most powerful things in the world because when you take that feminine energy and you are able to support it with some of that masculine structure, everything is possible.
I love that. There's such a shift. Do you feel like a major shift happening for us women? I think it's been so exciting that we can do all the things, we can have the career that men did, and I feel like we got the opportunity to do things that our moms didn't feel that they were able to do or didn't get to do. And now it's like the step back to realize our magic is in our being, to your point. We're so we're so powerful when we step into our feminine. And this is somewhat new for me. I'm very much like a doer, and it's so easy to forget we're human beings.
That's very true, right? And I think in alignment with that, the being side of things, we need to look at our day and realize that as the woman who is managing and running the household at the same time as doing whatever we're doing on the outside for business, our energy and our way of being and our, I guess, the way that we move through the world, that actually dictates how our family moves, right? And most of us, we think we keep ourselves in this individual, like, well, I'm doing all these things, right? But we're setting the tone and the mood and the activity and the energy of our family unit from how we start our day. And so I'm like, well, if I know that to be a fact, then I have to make sure that when I start my day, I'm starting the right mood and the right feeling and the right desired end state that the whole family could jump on board with. And if I'm frantic, then everybody's frantic.
Oh,
So
totally.
that's why I always go back to this emotional piece because if you have this, then that's your anchor for everything that you do the rest of the day.
Mhm. Makes so much sense. So beautiful. We do like a morning lounge. Do you guys have a morning? Is your morning low key? Like everyone just comes down and snuggles on the couch. We have our red light on.
We just snuggle in bed, like, the boys, they always say, they're like, "Will you wake me up early, mommy, like, an hour early?" And so
Yeah.
I do, I go in, I snuggle them, pick them up, come into the bed, we read stories, we talk about the day, we talk about what they want for breakfast, anything, but it's, like, loungy and snuggly.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
The
if you
best.
don't start the day with love, and you don't end the day with love and connection, it's
Mhm.
almost like you don't even know what you did with your day, right? You
So
gotta
true.
start with that love and connection, you have to end the day with love and connection. That's how you close the moment to make it
Yeah.
beautiful.
And it's so easy to wake up half hour earlier to create the time and space for that. It's so worth it.
So worth it. And if you need more time, then you wake up a half hour before that and you just have your own time. Because I found
Mhm.
that really works for me best to have my own time first, and then from there, go into the snuggle time because then I have a full cup to give to them from, and then I know that I've got that emotional deposit already in the bank.
Same. I do the same. I used to also feel so I get up earlier just to, have my minute with my nice warm drink, my little red light. And I used to feel that when they came down, I had to kind of be on. I'm still like just totally chill mode. And what I found is it just drops them down.
It
Like
does, because
to your
they're
point,
responding
they
to
were
you.
matching my energy. Yeah. It was like I was on, it was breakfast. It was no, it's like I don't have to do
Mellow.
anything. I'm just being.
And they love that because that regulates their nervous systems, right? This is
Yeah.
the thing that I wish I had learned this years ago. I didn't know anything really about the nervous system and how essential a calm nervous system is to literally everything in your life. It wasn't until I started, doing some work with that company, BioNTech, that I started realizing, "Oh my goodness, if I am calm then my nervous system is regulating their nervous systems. So in my world and as a parent, I was always thinking, how do I calm the energy more so other than just working on me? So I
Hmm.
started doing a lot of things that calm the nervous system because if I do that, then their nervous systems are calm. They sleep better. We all make better decisions. We all have better interaction. I noticed a huge change in the decisions that I made for the company and for my family when I had a calm nervous system.
Mm.
Most of us don't have a very calm nervous system because it's regulated by our gut biome, and many of us don't have the proper nutrition sometimes or the proper health, or even from parents, right? Our parents might have passed down a biome to us based on a lot of alcohol or a lot of caffeine or a lot of, any of those other, daily drugs or other drugs.
Yeah.
So I would say for parents who are listening, the best thing that you can do if you want to start regulating the emotional state of your household is to calm your nervous system. And there are so many ways to do it, but I just use Biotech because it was the quickest way I could find.
Is it
So,
okay if we put your contact info below? Anyone with questions on Biomtech? I know those are some of the
yes,
supplements that we've used together that have been really powerful in my experiences.
yes, very happy to answer any questions that people have on that.
Do you want to? I know we want to talk about redefining success, and we probably need to wrap up pretty soon. So I think that's a really important one. I didn't know if you had any other tips we want to mention.
Yes. So when we talked about it a little bit earlier, we talked about redefining it, or at least contemplating how you defined it up until this moment. Because if you live in a family unit, you know that your definition of success can be very different than perhaps your spouse's or your significant others. Everything in life is language. That's how we as human beings are able to coordinate action more effectively with each other. So for me, if I hear somebody say a word over and over, I'm like, well, how do you define that word? Because I can't meet someone in that world of their word if I don't understand what their word means. So
Mm.
for me, I took success and I'm like, it's not or it's not a goal or an objective, it's an emotion. And then I define success as a optimized daily experience you sustain over time. So things like that, you might even want to ask people to define, well, what's love to you? How do you define love? How do you
Mm.
define energy? How do you define spirituality, right? If we are curious with these words and definitions in this language that we have as human beings, we can get so much more intimate and connected with another person if we ask for their definition of things.
Mm.
So, with regards to success, I would say if you're willing to consider the concept that it's an optimized daily experience that you sustain over time, really look at your day and say, what do I have to do to make sure my day is so optimized, not for productivity, but for authenticity, connection, and trust? If I can optimize my day for authenticity, connection, and trust, what would my day actually look like? And I'm willing to bet that you would actually get more done in that feeling of that day than if you went after productivity. You'd get the right
Mhm.
things done.
Mhm.
And that's what I always tell myself every morning. I'm like, the right things are going to get done today. Not all the things.
Not all the things, but the right things. I That was such a huge reframe for me because I'm a past mountain climber. Like not well, I have climbed mountains, but
I get
success
what
with
you're saying.
goals
Yes.
and top of the mountain, and you get to the top of the mountain and you're just looking at the next mountain. And when you reminded me that success in your definition, which I very much align with, is, an optimized state of being that you can maintain every day. It's like I have felt very content. Content is a word that I align with a lot lately, and I think it's just success isn't something that I'm working towards. It's something that's exactly in this moment. I have it already,
Already exists.
and I think also as women, success is something that we naturally fear without even maybe realizing it. There's that quote. It's like it's not our darkness that we fear the most. It's the light, and it's stepping into that light and power. And I know we talked on our last podcast together how we create these stories to subconsciously, diminish that power. We don't fully step into all that we can do because we're afraid.
And I think women, from what I've experienced, we have more fear of our own success than we have fear of failure. Men have fear of failure, women have fear of success. And the only way that we work through that is I think we get to get so connected to what our calling is and to realize that no one else has the same voice as you. No one else has the same calling. No one else has the same lesson to bring to humanity that you do. And
Mhm.
so the more time that you own that lesson and can say, there is a reason why I'm here and I want to figure that out because I want to bring that to the world. I think that allows us to go after success in a different way. That's not about money and it's more about like connection. I think for women, like we want to have that connection. If we build connection, then success always comes. If you go after
Mhm.
fulfillment instead of the accomplishments, success always instead of the accomplishments. Success always comes. And that's because success can now be turned to feeling. We can have it
Suc
every day if we want.
Yeah, success always comes when we're living in that I in the reason that we're here, and I feel that when we are it's like follow the breadcrumbs. When you're moving towards getting more in alignment with the reason that you're here, that's when you're in flow. Like, when stuff is happening easy and you're like, "What's going on? Everything's just coming
This
towards me."
is so
Follow
right.
those breadcrumbs because that is your soul purpose, your SOUL purpose, and that is
Mhm.
also your soul purpose, SOLE. Like, that is what you are here for. Slowly drop the rest.
And it is the truth of who you are. So if you live in that soul purpose, and the truth,
Mhm.
life becomes so much more magical. And every one of us is worthy of that magic.
That's a good point. I think that's really important to understand that you're worthy of that.
Every one of us is. We just have to figure out why we're here and then live into that new way of being.
Or if you can't step into yet that you're worthy of it, if your life is feeling really difficult and really hard, why not try another way? Why not just take a minute and connect with your words, whether it's peace and joy or something else, and just walk a little bit more that way? Just test it out. Just see what happens. See if things get easier because you know they will. That's how this works.
I know it is, right? And the question that I would have someone ask if you're in a really difficult spot and you're really stuck, ask yourself, what do I want to be true in this moment? And then live into what you want to be true, not what people tell you is the reality or what people say has to be done or any obligation. What do I want to be true? Do I want it to be true that I am moving forward towards abundance and connection and security in my life? Yes, I do. Okay, then I get to live into that now. What does that look like?
Mm,
That what do I want to be true question has saved me so many times from really dark and intense places. So
so
there's never
simple.
something yep, there's never something that you can't work your way out of or figure out. As long as you have people in your life that you love and you're looking to for help and support, ask for help because every time you
Mm.
ask someone for help, you give them purpose. That's what really
Ooh.
changed for me in the concept of asking for help. I used to always feel like it was weak to ask for help. But then
Mhm.
once I realized if I don't ask for help, I'm literally taking away the possibility of somebody to step into their purpose. And I was like, well, that's a selfish act. I need to ask for help more. So now I ask for help all the time. And I love watching people decide to step into their purpose in the way that they help. It's magical.
And people just light up. You
They
can tell when
do. And
someone's
that's
on
what we
their purpose.
want. We want everybody to be lit up all the
Yeah.
time. Living in truth,
Oh my
lit up.
I love it. Okay, I know we gotta wrap this up. Are there any last messages for my listeners?
Oh, goodness. I would say go out into this world knowing that you are loved beyond belief, that the universe is wanting all the good things for you. And I would say if there are 2 books to read to help you really believe this concept, it's Not Your Money by Tasha Silver and Change Me Prayers by Tasha Silver. Whether you're religious or spiritual or not, take what you can from those 2 things because really there's enough out there for everybody if we all believe and hold that to be true.
Love it. Oh my goodness.
Thank you so
Let's just
much.
do
This
like
was so
10
fun.
more 10 more episodes.
I know, right? What's our next adventure that we're going to go on? That's why I'm excited for you to come in because we're going to have so many good things to share after that.
Yeah, definitely. I know, again, I just want to share this. My intention with our next experience is just clarifying my message. And I've just gotten more and more clear of why I'm here and what my soul purpose is. And I know we're just going to take that to the next level. So, people that are watching this now is the before, and then we'll see. We'll see what happens after.
That's right. We'll see. Until then,
Until then, all right, Annie, I love you, sister. Thank you so
great.
much.
You
All
are
right.
so welcome.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. So many great takeaways. I'm looking forward to hearing which ones you are most excited to implement. I would love to hear your comments below. If you like this episode, go ahead and throw a like under it. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of my future episodes. And as always, be sure to share this message with someone in your life that you know can benefit from the information. Thank you.